Alrighty, it's time to rebuild the carburetor on this Fiat. Bloody thing just won't run, and I reckon it's because the jet's actually blocked up with a bit of crap that's come through the petrol tank. So, yeah, even though we've got the filter on there, which is there, yeah, it's still got a bit of crap in there, so time to rebuild it. You can see it's on there, and actually, there you go. You can see in there that bit of crap. It's just been sucking in God knows what. So, just getting out a bit of my finger. Yeah, that's not nice. It shouldn't be that dirty. That's horrible. So yep, time to rebuild it. So this here is the actual carburetor itself. So yeah, it's quite a small looking little unit. You can see you got there's your floating chamber in there, your float. And that's your needle, so as the petrol level rises in the float chamber, this comes up, pushes the little pins, and pushes the needle down, and that blocks the port. So yeah, quite a simple little device, but it works. Now you can see all the crap in the bottom of that too. It's just absolutely filthy. Horrible. Yeah, there you go. So time to rebuild it. I think my dad rebuilt it initially, so I have no idea on the workings of all this and how it goes, so we'll just find out as we go along. Now this here is the economizer, and that's held on just in place there by two screws. You've got them both here, like so. And basically what that does, when you're cruising at speed, this is attached to a little lever on the dashboard, and when you pull it, it lowers this little pin onto the main jet, which atomizes the spray of petrol into the carburetor and makes it evaporate more into the air, I suppose, so you get a better fuel explosion in the cylinder. So yeah, quite a nifty little device. So that's that. You can see you got these two things here. You adjust them for effectively cold air intake. So if it's a cold morning, you shut them off and it sucks air through this chamber here, which of course goes into your valve casing, and that yeah, that allows you to suck in warm air and hence burn it better. But on a hot day, you just have them wide open, just like sucks in normal air. So yeah, you can see you've got your throttle there. So even the throttle body, it's filthy. Needs a good clean out. So might have to invest in some throttle body cleaner, I think. So I've just taken the bottom nut off of this. You can see right inside of there, it is absolutely filthy. And that was cleaned out before we got this engine running. It's only been running for a year, just around the block, and then little startups in the sheds. So basically the workings of this, you've got a little filter that you can see here. That basically sits up inside of there. You've got a spring that goes around the outside of it, like that. And then you've got your cap here. That screws on the bottom. You can see we've got a little cork seal that goes in there, and as you screw it up, it just seals around this interface on the aluminium here. So you can see even all of that is absolutely filthy. Now this is a very common problem for carburetors of the 501s to leak around this here, so probably the best fit is to try and get this flange across the bottom of this thread here perfectly flat. You get a decent seal in this and just do it up. Alright, so I've got the complete carburetor to bits, and you can see it's just absolutely filthy all inside of there. There's a lot of carbon built up, and yeah, it really does need a good clean. So first things first, you've got this big hole at the bottom here. That's where the main jet goes. So the jet that operates when it is at high RPM. So basically you've got this nut here that goes on underneath, and then you got this here, which is basically a jet, which threads up through this here, if you can see that, heads up in there. Now what actually happens is the petrol comes down into this little chamber that's down in here and floods in the well that's in the bottom of this nut, and there's a tiny hole in the bottom of this, if you can see that. Yep, it floods in there, and then it gets sucked up through the tube, being this tube, and there's a tiny little hole in the side of him. Can't quite see it, just there where my nail is. There you go. And there's one on the other side as well. I'm assuming it sucks in a bit of air from around it, and then it squirts up through there. So that's the main jet, and that's where the economizer here comes into play, because that pin will lower down into there when you want it, a finer mist of petrol sprayed into the air inside the carburetor. So that's where that plays a role, and that adds to the economy, so it creates greater economy of the car, for lack of better words. So that's the main jet, and then the pilot jet sits inside this chamber that goes along here in the carburetor. And you can see this goes up from underneath, just simply screws out, And again, the fuel comes through, where are we? Comes in the bottom here. There's a little hole there. You can't, oh, there he is, just in there. That feeds out the bottom of in there, sorry. You can see there's two holes there. The one on this side is for the pilot, the one on that side for the main, and of course the one for the main, oh, it's the same size, looks bigger. Alright, so petrol comes through there, squirts up here, you can see a little hole on the top there, so that's the actual jet for the pilot. And to adjust the idle, or the way it runs when it idles, you can set the mixture of this. So you got this bit here is a locking nut, and as you screw the top, comes down, and the further down it goes, the richer it gets, because it comes down and closes on that. But if you screw it the whole way down, it's going to stall the engine, obviously. You screw it up, makes it weaker, according to the manual. So I'm not sure how it works, but it just does. And also, you can adjust your air intake for your idle. So you've got this here, which screws into here. I'm assuming it's air intake. You see it's got a spring on there. This isn't actually in the book, so I'm just guessing on this part. It's got a hole that corresponds, that feeds into here. And so that when your throttle is fully closed, like so across there, it still gets air coming through that hole that's inside there. And you can also see a tiny little hole in the throttle lever just in there, if it'll focus, which it won't. No. Yeah, so that's where it gets its petrol coming through, just in there. So a slight bit of petrol, and you get your air coming through that little jet there. So now really all I've got to do is clean the entire carburetor up, because it is just absolutely horrible. Now these brass bits here, they would unscrew. They are in a thread, but I think they're just too stubborn, so I'm just going to leave them. I'm not going to bother trying to undo them, because it'll probably create more headaches than it's worth. And you can see they just have a central screw that goes through into there and holds for a snug fit. So yeah, that's basically the workings of this. Now there's also a drain hole that's down here, so when it does get flooded, the petrol runs to the lowest point in the carburetor and drains out down the side of the crankcase. Other holes to take note of, there's a little one there, don't know what it's for, but it's just there. Another one here, so when it gets flooded as well, if it backfires, it just shoots petrol out of there. I've been in the way of that a few times. Apart from that, that's about all I know of. So, okay, so the carby's all been cleaned out and it's all bolted on, all back together, full of petrol. But as it turns out, the carby wasn't the problem. It was the spark plugs. See, I've got an old one that came with the engine, that rusty one there, and I've got another rusty one just here. But I found that the new ones that we put in, they've lost their spark somehow. And of course, it only runs on 2 cylinders. But watch this. It's running half-ish. So now I've just got to get it running on all 4. Oh, joys of old cars. Oh.